Games. Board games is what I'm talking about. Board games, I'm not gonna shout. This is the way that I like to start my morning, with a little bit of singing. Good morning, I am Bez, and this is the Bezzy Breakfast Board Game Blether. It is approximately breakfast time, and I am going to be blethering about board games. There is a schedule, and hello, Alan. It is lovely to see you. And if you are enjoying this, then please do say hello. Feel free to comment. Feel free to share this and give it a thumb. The schedule is down at the bottom. Today, it's all about Quoridor. Tomorrow, we're looking forward to talking about WellyCon with some New Zealanders, and then we're talking to some Nigerians on Saturday. It's crazy. Like, I mean, as we've stopped being able to interact with our local communities, it's given us an impetus to reach out a little bit further and to speak to more people, to check out what's going on in the community. Now, Quoridor is a game for 2 or 4 players, 10 to 20 minutes, ages 8+, designed by Mirko Marchesi, and it's been published in 1997 by Gigamic, who I am biased towards because they pay me money for Yogi. Although I found out I do. Anyway, so this is Quoridor. It's a really nice game. I've got an old version, as you can see, by the fact that the Gigamic logo looks the way it currently does, but this is a very different box design to the new modern white fresh look. It's a game about getting your pawns from A to B whilst blocking in your opponents with a little bit of a fencing structure. You know what? I just realized that we could technically live stream like a playing of this on the Board Game Arena, because I signed up to Board Game Arena the other day, and thanks to CD, I have a month's premium subscription, which I'm quite looking forward to. So that is what we're going to talk about today, Quoridor. But before we get to Quoridor, I am going to go through the regular things. Firstly, we're going to be talking about brilliant things, brilliant things. Here's a little thing that is brilliant. Brilliant things. I want to talk about metal. I mean, not just because my keys are made out of metal and I saw them there, but yeah, if I'm being honest, partially because I look around and I never really have a notion of what I'm going to talk about. It's brilliant things each day. But metal is rather brilliant. I mean, think about it. I mean, it doesn't snap. It's pretty damn hard. And that's what keys are made out of. And you can make tins out of metal for boxes. You could have, you know, sorts of metal tankards to drink out of. And I don't think keys would work as well if they were plastic and then they got scratched, and or if they were wood and then they potentially broke. Metal is a good, hardy, solid structure, whether it's you know, making cars or buses or ships or railroad tracks or keys. Metal's pretty awesome, and you can even get some flexible metal and metal combs. So yay, metal. Metal's pretty brilliant. And also, this is just before we get to metal music, which, you know, that's its own totally different thing. I mean, we should talk about music one day. That's another brilliant thing. Games, 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 games. What have we been playing? What are their names? I'm going to share my screen and show you the fact that I started playing on Board Game Arena, and I've still not managed to beat Pilos. Everyone seems to be better than me, which is like, wow, I thought I was not too bad at this game. I've won a couple of games of Quoridor, and that is something that I signed up to on Board Game Arena since I signed up yesterday. That was good fun. And if you want to find me, I am Stuff by Bez, although I don't promise to play in any long-term meaningful way. I also played a couple of games last night with the Board Game Broads, lovely people. Hello, if you're watching, Eric Slauson, who came along and showed us a couple of their games. They showed us Tattoo Stories, which is a fun little game. You've got 5 topics. For example, it might be ballerina, eating, shark, feather, and there was something else, swords. And everyone has, except for the judge, has to draw a picture, a tattoo ideally, that incorporates all 5 of these aspects. And then the judge says, okay, you had the best sword, you had the best, but it's not who drew it the best, it's who drew it in the most creative way. So it's basically a simple game of creativity. That's a nice game for improv style crowds. Then we played another game by Eric Slauson, which is an unreleased one. It's going to be coming out in July, August, I believe. September maybe, I'm not sure. They've still got to decide. It's by the same publishers of that Welcome to Your Perfect Home. Anyway, so this game, Monstrosity, which hopefully it will be on Board Game Geek, and you can apparently even pre-order it at some places in the world. So Monstrosity is all about having these crazy creatures. You get someone's an eyewitness. It's kind of like about eyewitness accounts, and so you get to choose one of the, look at the picture for 20 seconds, then you've got to remember, hey, what did this monster look like? You describe it to everyone else for 2 minutes, everyone else draws a picture, and then after 2 minutes, everyone gets to see what the original looks like and votes for who was actually the closest. For the So the person who drew the most popular vote gets a point. The person who gets the one that was decided upon by the describer, the eyewitness, gets another point. And the eyewitness gets a point if the thing that they picked before they got to refer back to the picture again, i.e. based on their memory and the way they described it, matches with what everyone else chose after they actually get to see the original little picture of the monster. It's really cute game. It's simple, but the player incentives are perfectly aligned to what is the fun thing. And it's a really interesting game about memory, about how, eyewitness accounts aren't reliable. Yeah, I think I'm probably quite likely to get a copy of that. And so that's his games that I've been playing. What have you been playing? Let me know. Alan Outzen loves metal. Copper is great, but lead leads the way. There we go. Daily highlights, daily highlights. Listening to music and seeing the sights. Daily highlights. Yesterday, my daily highlights, I drew a bunch of cats. I was just inspired by Elaine. I'm not going to... There were definitely, I'm covering up addresses. There's a bunch of dogs as well as the cats. So just trying to, yep, there we go. And I was just going through and drawing little cats based on photos. That was quite a nice, fun thing to do. And I also got out, I played a little bit of Ingress with my housemate. I don't know why, I guess, yeah, when I talk about games I've been playing, I think of maybe board games or games that aren't Ingress for whatever reason. But yeah, Ingress, I went to my housemate, George. I said, hey, do you want to come out for a wee bit? We went out for about 15, 20 minutes. It's something that's, again, got me out of the house. I wouldn't have been out of the house otherwise. Felt good chatting to George as we went around for 20 minutes. So Ingress, yay, great game. Bringing people together. That's what games are all about. Now, let's get on to the main topic, which is Quoridor. Now, Quoridor, if I get rid of these couple of things, Quoridor is a zero-randomness game about getting from A to B. I have put in the little description. Whoops, I didn't mean to do that. There we go. Now it's on the bottom. There we go. That's what it's all about. This is the box. I'm going to talk a little bit about the history of the game. I've done a little bit of research and started off with Blockade, a game from 1975. Seems to be the original game of moving pawns towards a goal while setting up walls to block your opponents, as it says on Board Game Geek here. That is by Philip Slater. And then we've got Pinco Polino in 1995 by Mirko Marchesi. Another kind of branch of the same concept of entrapment, which is a lot more pieces, by Rich Gowell in 1999. And in 97, there was Quoridor, which was the re-release of Mirko Marchesi's Pinco Polino, which was their new naming of the game, and it made some small changes. So I'm going to let me start off by talking about what Quoridor is, and then we'll talk about the history. So Quoridor, a game with lots of languages inside. I counted, and I think there were literally 33 languages in the instructions. Quoridor, the amazing maze, it kind of is. The aim is to reach the other end first, that's true. The problem is that your opponent puts up fences to slow you down. That is exactly the problem. Not to worry, there's always a way out. That's true, because the rule is that you can't entirely block your opponent. I mean, the game wouldn't work if you could just block your opponent from getting to the end. So there always has to be a way. You're just trying to make them turn back on themselves, or, hey, now you've gone to the right following this, and now you need to go back to the left. But who will find the shortest route? I mean, I guess, is it about finding the shortest route? That sums up what the game's about. I mean, it's maybe an oversimplification because there's so much strategy going on here. It's about not just the shortest route from A to B, but about getting your opponent to turn back, about playing defensively. And then that was really a mind opener. The first time I realized that I could use walls to block off one of my own options so that I wouldn't have to retrace my steps. Boom. It's not just, anyway, there's so much going on, but who will find the shortest route? That feels appropriate. 2 or 4 players. This is a game for 2 or 4 players, not 3. You can play it 2 players, which is a perfect information abstract strategy game. Let's not get into the notion of what abstract means. It's a perfect information strategic game. With 2 players, as with any perfect information strategic game, it all comes down to who plays the best and outthinking your opponent and outmaneuvering them. With 4 players, it can come down to king making. I haven't really explored the 4-player game very much, so I'm not going to pass a lot of comments on it, just to say, as with, it is a high interaction game, same as photosynthesis that I talked about a while back. This is very high interaction, and so if there's 4 of you, then you're going to be, it might feel like, oh, I only lost because everyone was picking on me. 8+, I would agree with that. I would be astonished if any 8-year-olds could play an interesting game with me, but I will note that you could totally play with one person having fewer walls, and this is a nice simple way to almost rebalance the game. So if I were playing it with even my 10-year-old niece, let alone my 8-year-old niece, I could say, okay, you know what, I'll play with 5 walls and you have all 10, and then we'll play, and once they start beating me, then after a while, then maybe they get 6, or sorry, I get 6, and then 7 on total, playing a fair match of 10 versus 10. Someone else suggested that's what you can do if you are playing with younger people, is start on some setting and say, okay, if you ever win 2 games in a row, then or if you ever win a game in a row, then you change the handicap. And Richard Garfield, creator of Magic the Gathering, liked to do a system with handicaps where what Richard Garfield would do would be to say, okay, we're always going to play sets of 3. If you win 2 games in a row, then you've won the set. And if you win that 3rd game, so if one person wins 3 games in a row, then the handicap changes. So what that means is that then every game is important in a match. And so I approve of these sorts of systems of using handicaps to make games more fair and exciting. Anyway, so let's get back to the box. 8+, yes, an 8-year-old could understand it. 10 to 20 minutes, that's about true. Yep, depends absolutely how deep you're thinking. Like most perfect information abstract strategy games, you could play it very loose and random and be done quickly, or you could put lots of thought into it and play a single game over 60 to 90 minutes. Content, 1 board, 20 wooden fences, 4 wooden boards, 1 cloth bag, rules of the game. So let's see what's in my version of the game. And as you can see, I am in the house because it has been raining today. So you've got this box. You've got these games, most of which I like, one of which I don't, but let's not talk about that. Quoridor, I really like what they've done here with the instructions. So you've got like little illustrations. So if you're, let's say you're French, you can read the French rules whilst looking at the examples here. If you're English, you can read the rules here whilst looking at that. And if you're whatever NO or SE is, I don't know what those abbreviations mean. It's a really nice system to kind of make sure that they only needed to print the diagrams once. So kind of cutting down a little bit of paper usage. Good work. And then there's this page for notes. I'm not sure what's going on with this blank page. Yeah, I think it's just because they've got, you know, when you do pages with a little thing like this, it's always going to be in groups of 4. So presumably they had 2 spare pages. It would have been nice if they'd put something there. I mean, who's going to actually use this for notes? I mean, I'm sorry, Gigamic, obviously I love you and I don't want you to stop promoting yogi or anything. But I mean, you could have had a superfluous illustration. It's all about the superfluous illustration sometimes. Have a bit of whimsy in your lives. By the way, this is not a reflection on the latest production. This is just a reflection on this one. So this is the board. I don't know if you can see that properly. Yep, it's got a place to keep all your little walls on the bottom, a place for the walls to be put in here, and your pawns are wandering up. This is the inlay of the box. It's practical. And I will now empty this bag. They've got a nice superfluous little bag. The superfluous bag means that you can keep the pieces out on the side if you wanted to, you know, have it literally as a coffee table game. Now, you've got these little pieces and they slot nicely in here. This is going to be your wall stock. You're going to, this game is really simple and I'm just going to explain the whole thing. And then we're going to probably play a game over board game arena, maybe. I don't know. Does that seem like a reasonable thing? Let me know if you'd like, if you think that playing a game over board game arena is a reasonable compliment to this rambling review. And let's see what's Helen out. Someone is saying, I love blank pages in books. Why do you love blank pages in books, Alan? What's the point? I mean, it just feels like a waste to me. It feels like, oh, this blank page, something could have been done on it. I mean, I say that there's a blank page in the book that I was a small part of, The Dice and Ink, and certainly that's a page that I can draw an illustration on. It's something that I'm going to personalize, but it just feels like a waste. Anyway, so this board, as you can see, it's very much designed for 2 players. If you're playing, you've got 4 colors of pawns, purely so that you can,
And you can see that at least one of them, I'm just looking on the screen here, this one is a bit close to the color of the board. And so if you play in a bad light, this pawn is not very good. You see this pawn? Don't know if you can see it. Yep, do you see this pawn? Yeah, it's not the best color, is it? But like, Gigamic have this thing of making these beautiful wooden games, and it's all wooden colors, and it is stained, but it's not painted. So you can still see the wood grain and everything through that. And this is a solid board. I'm not going to knock it too hard because then I might dislodge all these walls. But trust me, this is a solid board. And you could probably make a decent musical instruments out of this if you wanted. Anyway, so what this game is all about is, starts off on the middle. Your opponent, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to use this reddish one and that other one. So on your turn, you do one of two things. You either move your piece and the other person moves their piece. And I could move my piece and they could move their piece. I can't move diagonally. I can move orthogonally. I can even move backwards. I might have to move backwards because let's say I move and then the other person does that. And then let's say I go there and then they do that. And let's say I go there and then maybe they go there and I go there and then they go there. And I'm like, oh no, I've been stuck behind this wall. Now I've got to go all the way back. And maybe now I do that, and so I'm forcing them to go backwards and forcing them to go backwards even more. And maybe I'm forcing them to go backwards on themselves. It's all about forcing people to go backwards on themselves. And yeah, maybe I even do like that, get them into a little spiral, and then they have to spend really long coming out. It's a game all about tempo. It's a unique game. Let me put that to the side and let me carry on. I definitely dropped. Here's the piece I dropped. So let's talk about the history of this game. Alan Alton says, to write in, you could add your ideas about different number of walls for new players. Yeah, I guess you could. Yeah, sure. Fine. Different strokes for different folks. So Alan Alton is happy with your decisions, Gigamic. But yeah, I'm not going to be shy about saying that. Even though I love Gigamic and I love this game, you know, there's definitely things that I would do differently. But that doesn't mean I don't respect them. And if you're watching this, anyone from Gigamic, I absolutely love you. And please don't stop ping me. Anyway. So Blockade from 1975 was the earliest similar game that I could find, also known as Cul-de-sac, designed by Philip Slater. People have 2 pawns, green walls, and they're going around. It's similar-ish if we look at, here, that you kind of find that you've got different target spaces. It's you've got to get your pieces to the opponent's starting pieces. It's a really nice, seems like a reasonable implementation of the rules. And there's definitely lots of commonalities that you can see with Blockade, the way that the walls are put in, carrying over to Michele, sorry, designer's name, Michele, Mirko Marchesi. So you can definitely see a lot of evolution of this game. But here we've got that. Now, in 1995, Mirko Marchesi made Pinko Pallini, which you can see it's a simpler system. You've just got to get from A to B, and it's all about, it feels like an evolution of this game. It feels very much like, okay, here's some ideas that have been done in the past.
or maybe it was independent parallel design. But either way, you can see some common threads. And then finally, it was shown to Gigamic at some point in between 95 and 97, based on how they work. I would guess 95 or 96. And then it came to be known as Quoridor. And you also get Quoridor Classic, Deluxe, Mini, Pocket, Travel, and all these other things. And now this is the much beloved game, and you can see so many people have had lots of fun with it. Some people even putting their own spin on it. And some people even making their own versions of the game. Like here. Some people are crafting their own versions. It is a beautiful game. And finally, in 97, we've got Entrapment, which I'm not really going to talk about. That's very different. That's a little bit more similar to a lot of folk games in which you're trying to trap your opponent so they can no longer move. Vaguely similar to some Taffel games or Fox and Geese, where, yeah, there's a fair bit more going on. Now, Quoridor, compared to all of these, I think that it's got a really nice aspect of simplicity. You can teach it very easily. There is a lot of strategy despite this simplicity. Like you can have tiny young children playing it, as you can see here, and you can have variants. Like you can't have the barriers standing up. The barriers are always meant to be placed blocking 2 dimensions, but you can place. I looked up, there was a good burgeoning community of variants, and so you can see how much love there is. And they've even got, this is a homemade version, I believe, and handcrafted versions. And they do have Quoridor Junior and whatnot with other people. And it's a game that elicits such joy. Now, Alan Alton says, someone I bumped into the park yesterday started talking about Gigamic. I hope that you're keeping, your social distancing, Alan. That I hope you were, at least 2 meters apart. And yeah, they love their games, rightfully so. Let's look at Gigamic's. So Gigamic do have a lot of abstract strategy games. If you look at wooden games, these are all the wooden games that Gigamic currently do. They have Quarto, which I quite like. Catamino, which is more of a puzzle. Quoridor Junior, I've not played that. It's just simplified Quoridor. I've no need to play that. Squadro, quite nice. Quantic, I think that's my second favourite out of all of them. And they've got mini versions all of them. Quixo, I've not played that one. Pilos, Quoridor. So they've got this big line of wooden games, some of which were discontinued, some of which have carried over. And I think I talked about that when I was talking about Pilos. And Alan does say, obviously, bumps from 2 meters away. I'm glad to hear that. Now, let's talk about... I was going to say, let's talk about what I don't like about the game, or what I like about the game, and then let's give an overview. And I'm trying to think about things I don't like about it. And honestly, when I think about things I don't like about it, it's really ridiculous things like, okay, in 2 players, it is a perfect information strategic game. The better player will almost always win. Unless you've got, okay, you try something crazy and maybe it just pans out because the other person doesn't know quite how to respond. It, like chess, like all these games. But again, going back to it, even though it's not in the official rules, you could use the number of walls you have to handicap each other somehow. that's a thing worth considering. So actually, my only objection of Quoridor is my objection to every perfect information two-player abstract strategy game. And regarding four-player Quoridor, my objection is simply the king making. I think that four-player, I would not generally choose to play it, especially because... What did I drop something? Yep. Don't put this board at its alt. I'm going to maybe tilt this a little bit down. So with four players, when you've got one player on each side trying to get to the middle, and then you're all moving in, and it can feel like, oh, the only reason I did badly is because of the chaos of every other version. Alan Oughton apparently played it on Board Game Arena and quickly realized that they needed to learn quite a bit to be able to challenge a good player. And then they found an AI version to practice on. If you go to Board Game Geek, there is an AI version. Now let me talk about what I like about this game. Firstly, I like the fact that it's simple. I like the fact it's simply, okay, actually, you know what? There is one other thing that I don't like, which is that this one is a little bit dark. I would like the board to maybe more of a neutral tone, just so that the different pieces would show up better on it. Because here, genuinely, that is an issue for me. That, yeah, if you just look at the color, looking from above, there, this color seems to almost disappear into this color. I mean, yeah, I would like a little bit more contrast here. That's my only objection to the game. But at the same time, I understand they were trying to get four wooden colors, and you know, it's a situation that no one's going to. So yeah, my objection to the game: perfect information two-player abstract strategy game. If you don't like the better player always winning, then don't play this. If you don't like there being a lot of high, a little bit of king making, don't play the four-player version. And if you don't like, yeah, some pieces being too difficult to look at, then you probably won't want to play the four-player version. You can still play the two-player version. Now, it is something that you can easily make up yourself with a 9x9 Go board. And yeah, you just need little counters for these pieces, and pieces that are too long, you could reuse the roads in Catan or whatever. But let's talk about the production value. It does actually smell quite good. You know, this game does not smell as good as what was, you know, that other game, QE. It smelled. This is quite possibly the second best smelling game I've ever smelt. I'm talking about QE, Gavin Birnbaum's game. I'm not talking about Pelos. Pelos hardly smelt. Yeah, exactly. Pelos, hardly I had any smell. Here I'm getting earthy tones. I'm getting a little bit of, I don't know if that's rubber. I think that says a little bit of rubber along the edge. I'm getting, yeah, it smells, I can smell the varnish. You know, there's a lot of nice smells going on with this game. Good smell. In case you wondered, because that's all we care about when we play board games. How nice does it smell? But it's all about the production. Like, these little pieces, it's beautiful. It's well machined. The classic pawn, which is the abstract representation of a player character. Hey, you don't get to choose what gender you are, or what race you are, or whether you are a minotaur or a hobgoblin. It's just an abstract little pawn. And to some degree, in this game, I know that Alan made this point recently. It's kind of, in theory, it's abstract, but you're kind of wandering from A to B, moving along this ever-shifting maze. It kind of makes me think of Jim Henson's Labyrinth, as well as any other films with the Labyrinth, and it makes me think of The Amazing Labyrinth by Ravensburger. All these games which are about shifting things.
And I don't mean the Labyrinth card game, which I will talk about soon. I mean the Amazing Labyrinth, the better known game of shifting things. And in this game, the walls don't shift, but the walls are kind of placed. And again, it makes me think of Dragon Ball Z, like where you're moving along and suddenly, shoom, like trapdoors coming. You're walking along. It makes me think of, what was that whole TV show in the 90s? You know, the kids one where you put on the helmet and then you go around and then you're traveling around. Yeah, this is a good... Whoops. Again, this is not the greatest game to maybe knock while you're holding it with one hand. And this is a wonderful game. If you want words on your games, this game has exactly one word, which ties in with all the other things, which has just a teeny little bit of branding there. It says Quoridor, just to remind you, hey, this is a game that we have chosen the name for. We are Gigamic, and we want you to know that you're playing Quoridor. There you go. And so that's the thing that they've done on Pilos. I think they have actually changed the colors a little bit for future printing. So I should just point out that this is an old copy of the game from no, it doesn't say in the manual when exactly this one was printed. Yep, it does not say. I think this, 2011. I think this is the 6th printing. I'm not sure. I would have to ask someone at Gigamic what that code actually means. Quoridor 06 2011. I'm going to assume that this is the 6th print run, and it was done in 2011. This is not just... Okay, so it's nicely made. Everything works well. If you go to a toy fair or if you go to Essenspiel, then you will see their giant version, which is literally about twice the length, and it has these giant bits. They have these giant versions of all of their games. Well, of all of their most popular 2-player abstracts games, I should say. I mean, I'd love them to do a giant version of Yogi. And yeah, if you're listening, Gigamic, please do that. So the giant version, obviously, it looks more eye-catching. This is a standard version, and then there's the mini version. I honestly feel like this is a great game, and I'm going to start now giving you a little bit of spoilers in terms of strategy. I think that you should just get on and play it and not be corrupted, because I started playing this game back before I knew who Gigamic was. Back when I went to UK Games Expo for the first time, or for maybe the second or third time, I don't know. I stayed in a place in Birmingham called Birmingham Central Backpackers. And in that youth hostel, they have a few board games, one of which is Quoridor. Now, we played it, and let's imagine you start off... let's bring this down. Let's imagine you start off doing that. Now, maybe I move here. You do that. When I go here, you do that. Go forwards, maybe I do that. Now I go forwards, and maybe you kind of, as time goes on, you hem me in, and then finally, just before I'm about to reach the final destination, then you block me off entirely. Boom, haha. And what that means is that now I have to retrace my steps before I can embark on my journey properly again. So that leads me to my first realization of defensive moves. So imagine if instead, when I had been here, I know that you need to place at least 2 pieces to hem me in. So I'm going to go here as a defensive move. Now I'm going to go here. Now if you do this, you are able to block me in, but if I were to do this straight away, blocking myself, you see, I'm blocking my own path. And by blocking my own path, that means that you need to leave this other path open, because it's not just about finding the shortest path. The game is all about having to retrace your steps. And now, yeah, that is my first realization. And that was the first time that I realized, wow, there's more going on in this game than I realized. That is one thing that I love about it. That there is with Pylos. Okay, I love Pylos, and clearly, as we can see from my board game arena things, I'm still not very good at it because I have played a few times and I've still never won a game. I've played 4 times and won never. Whereas Quoridor, I have played 11 times and won 3 times. And yeah, there we go. So I'm not very good at either of these games compared to the serious people who play online. But I will say that Pylos, I never felt like the strategy was coming from left field. I felt like Pylos, the strategy is place things, make shapes, remove the things to gain the tempo. Now that's a new evaluation of things, but if you've played a good number of abstract games, let's say you're familiar with backgammon, getting from A to B, you're familiar with drafts and chess, trying to capture early opponents, you're familiar with Go, a game of placements where you're trying to capture and build territory, you're familiar with games of movement, games of capture, games of making shapes, whether it's Connect 4, Tic-Tac-Toe, or whatever. Pylos, all these other things fall into that sort of thing. And I think that's why I love Quantic as my second favourite of the Gigamic line. Pylos is wonderful and there is a massive amount of depth, but Quoridor is unlike so much. I mean, the fact that out of everything in the history of games, I could find so few games that were actually similar to this, that should probably tell you a lot. The fact that, yeah, here's Quoridor and started off with Blockade, then it went to basically the Quoridor precursor by the same designer, Pinko Polino. It's yeah, that speaks to, and even now it's like, okay, we've got Entrapment, which is kind of similar, but there's hardly any games about just, okay, getting in your opponent's way and blocking them off for things. And so Quoridor stands alone. As you play it, you learn more and more about, okay, maybe now you start just putting blocks in the middle. At the start I was, and maybe you can kind of predict where your opponent's going to put a piece, and pieces can't go on top of other pieces. And because it's 2x1, there is going to be a gap where you can slide other pieces in between. But if you know where the other person is going to place their piece, with a 9x9 grid is small enough that then means that you are going to be able to make a defensive move and say, haha, you can't block me like this. I'm going to place these pieces to ensure that I have myself the best possible strategy. So at this place, going back to the game, that's the hypothetical game, obviously, sorry, these are all hypothetical situations. I might actually just do that and hem myself in. And now I'm like, okay, I'm guaranteed to get to the end, because it's all about messing with your opponent at the last possible time. But now I have, well, to be fair, I couldn't do that. I would need to, yeah, here, now you can make me move backwards and forwards. But, yeah, because then I'd be blocking you off. So maybe I actually try to do something like that. And that would actually be my ideal situation, because now I'm just going straight forward and you have to go around me. You've got a little bit longer to go around. There's one last rule that I've not mentioned, which is just a rule that you need to know. If you're ever next to each other, you jump over. And if you're ever next to each other and you can't go to the one behind because there's a wall, like the extremity is kind of like wall, you just jump diagonally over to the left or right. And that's the only time that you can actually move diagonally. Those are all the rules of the game. And so, yeah, let me... I dropped a piece and... here it is. So I love the fact that it's different, that it kind of forces you to think in new ways. The fact that, it really feels unlike anything else. The fact that, okay, at the start, I'm blocking people directly, I'm moving them across the way, and then, hey, suddenly I'm thinking about, okay, having just a piece in the middle, defensive pieces, narrowing down my own options. And the fact that, yes, 4-player is a bit... there's a lot of king making in 4-player, and Board and Mahogany, like, it's a wonderful game that people have been inspired to make their own versions of, like this beautiful piece uploaded by these people on Board Game Geek, and you can see Ukeblad, the Board Game Geek username up there. Quoridor Travel. There's plastic versions that you can take around with you. Quoridor, how does it feel to play? It's quick. What I also like about it, the second thing I adore about it, is that it feels like you're always moving along to a final place to be, if you know what I mean. Like, you're always getting to your destination. Yeah, sure, your opponents might place some obstacles in your way, but ultimately they're going to run out of obstacles, they're going to run out of walls, and eventually it's just a case of carrying on and making your way to that final destination. Now, with Pilos, I talked about how you could get into a routine of putting down and picking things up, and theoretically with Quoridor you might think, okay, I'm going to just move back and forth and waste time, but you probably don't want to. I've literally never seen anyone move the... If you've got as strong an aversion to games moving backwards as I do, then Quoridor is likewise probably a good game for you. Thrifted a random game called Barriere. That's one that I hadn't looked at. This is probably the giant version by Gigamic that they have, and you can see that the giant version here had big coloured pieces. They've moved towards having more... wow, homemade Quoridor at the beach. That's brilliant. Playing with pebbles and stones. This is a game that's worthy of trying. It's a game that is simple to teach. It's a game that I've explained to you, and now we could have a game together. It's a game, I mean, I don't know what, I'm just wondering, what is the legality of me live streaming a game through Board Game Arena? I mean, if that seems like a reasonable thing to do, I might do that in a couple of minutes, because that seems like a good way. This is a game that you start off playing and you don't know what the board will be like, and then it shapes. You put in like a small barrier, and then you put in more barriers. It's like Go, where the board starts to take more and more shape as the game evolves, and at the end, the board state is a story of how you came to get there, and a memory of how things came to be. This is a wonderful game. This is a game, I don't know what that picture's about. This is a game that's, yeah, I like the fact that even though it's not in the rules, you can do a sort of handicap
system. You could keep track of, okay, Bez plays against George with Bez having 7 walls, for example, because Bez has played it quite a bit. Bez is just teaching George, and George wants a chance to win, and Bez wants a chance to, wants an interesting game, and now Bez is not sure why Bez is talking about Bez in the third person. Quoridor is a game that obviously there's no language. You can play it in any language. You can play it with other people. I could probably teach this game with hand gestures, I reckon. If there's someone who had some understanding of what a board game was, I could probably teach this to a person who only spoke Hungarian, which I do not speak at all, purely just to say, yeah, just by following what's going on, it's obvious that, yes, these pieces, okay, I point to this and like that, I'd probably have the words win. I'd probably need the word win to be able to teach the game to anyone, but I could probably teach this entirely through mime. I mean, the pieces show clearly what's going on. Obviously, these are barriers. What else would they be? They're little walls. Obviously, you can't go past them. Obviously, these need to be placed in disorientation, because why would you place them like that? That's just silly. Obviously, you're going to place them like that. I could kind of say, and that's, I guess I need a hand gesture for yes or no. But obviously, if I've put this wall along this way with all these pieces, sure, I could slip a piece in between like that, and that's how the rules of the game work. But obviously, I can't put a piece like that because physically I can't. And so the game, by having the affordances of the pieces so closely entwined with the rules of the game, it's a beautiful thing. And it's like Pilos, where Pilos, you can only put the balls where you can actually put the balls. And yeah. So Sundolf Kallel, it's lovely to have you with us, who says it's just a piece holder, it seems, on the back side of the board. Oh yeah, for that side. And yeah, that makes sense. Talking about the Lord of the Rings version. Sorry I didn't see you there. It's lovely to have you. But having pieces that makes it obvious how the rules of the game should be played is a wonderful thing. And I don't have Pilos board right beside me, but in Pilos, where the ball, you can only put a ball if you've got 4 balls underneath it to hold the ball in place. And of course, you can't put a ball where there's 3 balls in a little T, because it would just drop. So obviously, and that is the wonderful thing about this game. Obviously, you can't come off the edge. And the rules of the game are beautifully intuitive. And I could play against anyone. We could have a good game. I could, in my own mind, if I want to spare someone's feelings, I could say, okay, I'm going to try playing with only 5 of my walls and see how I get on. And yeah, so I just want to give a shout out to the designers. Again, I keep forgetting the name of the designer of Mirko Marchesi, based on a concept produced by Mirko Marchesi. And there are some serious differences. I should say that Mirko Marchesi, in this version of the game, you're allowed to move diagonally, and there's some diagonal movements allowed under certain conditions, and also the board was a little bit bigger. So you can see here the board was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. It's important that it's odd, because when you are moving forwards in that first time and then you place a piece, that
straight away brings asymmetry. One side will be possible to close off using 2 pieces. The other side will need at least 3. So that informs your decision of where you go. And I'd be interested to know who did the slight development for Quoridor, because the numbers that they've landed on, I know that there's a little bit of discussion on Board Game Geek. Someone saying that possibly 9 might be a better number of walls, and that is, I don't know the game well enough to say for sure, is 9 the correct number? Is 10, as Gigamic has, the correct number? I mean, I feel like I like 10 because I like placing walls. Placing walls is fun, so why not have 10? But, you know, maybe 9 is the more strategically correct version. At this point, I don't think that Gigamic is going to really be changing this game. I don't think that's the kind of thing they're interested in. But I feel like this is a game that can be played at the highest level. It's a game that, yes, it's mathematically solvable, like every single 2-player abstract strategy game, but there's such a depth here that it should be played at high, what do I want to call it, world championship levels. Like, come on, Gigamic, if you're watching this, I'm going to message Lionel straight after this and say, look, I love your game Quoridor. You should have like a world tournament on Board Game Arena. And, you know, why not? Because that would be fun. And then they could do some sort of big game gift, like say, okay, the winner gets, you know, a whole section of different abstract strategy games by Gigamic. I think that would be a good prize because, yeah, maybe the winner gets all their mini versions. I don't know, whatever. But yeah, Lionel, come on, get some world championships going, because this is a game that I want to be able to play with. I want to show it with everyone. I want everyone to see how different it is to wow, it's called Quoridor in China. I don't know if that's actually a legitimate version or if that looks like it might be a knockoff copy. Yeah, don't buy knockoff copies, people, if it's not got. Yeah, that looks like it is actually an illegal counterfeit copy, given that it doesn't have Gigamic branding anywhere. Totally Chinese. That's Quoridor. Anyway, so that was uploaded at some points in the past. So that was actually 2 years ago. So it is a wonderful game, and I would like everyone else to play it and see that, yes, there are abstract strategy games about capturing. Yes, there's strategic games about making shapes, but this is just so different. And this is a masterpiece. You start, I don't know how else to describe it. I think that unless I think that it's probably legally and ethically okay for me to play on Board Game Arena, and so yeah, let's do that. Let's see what happens, and let's see what happens if I were to try playing and So oh, this is a newer version of Quoridor. You can see from the white box. And yeah, it's beautiful. It's different. It's worthy of real introspection and analysis. It's worth making your own homemade version if you are really on a tight budget, and then potentially, yeah, if anyone wants to play live, go on
Board Game Arena. I'll give it 5 minutes, and we'll do a sort of quick live stream of that afterwards. Yeah, Quoridor is awesome. And I am clearly not very good, given that, as you can see, games played, 11, victories, 3. And so I'm not great at this game, but I'm good enough to beat serious people who play online. So I feel like I'm probably never going to be a master at this game in the same way that I'm never going to be a master at Go. And what I like about this game also is the talking about simplicity, the ubiquity of the pieces. It's just pawn, wall. The ownership of the wall doesn't matter. You have your own stock, but once it's placed, hey, that wall could be anyone's. You have your own you have your own pawn, but in theory, these pawns could be identical colors because you're going to remember whose pawn is whose. What does Alan mean? Is someone waiting? I mean, it's still Sir is searching for opponents. No, still searching for opponents. See that little thing says searching for opponents. There you go. Anyway, so yeah, I love this game. I'm going to wrap up, and if we get someone wanting to play, then we will play. Otherwise, I will wrap up. So Firstly, to recap, I love Quoridor. Quoridor is published by a company that's paid me a lot of money, Gigamic, but they haven't paid me money to say nice things about this, and I would feel at liberty to say that I don't like this very much. This is genuinely, possibly, my joint second favorite game. I was saying previously my second favorite abstract strategy game, and then I thought actually Hex. Hex is also really good. So it might not definitely be my second favorite ever, but it's definitely in my top few, and it's definitely a contender for my second favorite. So yeah, Quoridor. It's pretty awesome, and I wouldn't say that even if you paid me. I mean, how much would it cost to? I mean, if you paid me £1 million, then I'd probably start thinking about lying on this show. Like I could possibly be bought for. I mean, if you paid me £1,000, I'd definitely say I've been paid to say, or I might say really quietly, I've been paid to say, this is my favorite game in the whole wide world. But, you know, genuinely, I've not been paid to say anything. I bought this version of the game myself because I love it. And so, yay, Quoridor. Look, and I will also say that it is really quick if you play it quickly. And can I make a table for Alan to join? I don't know. I can press the plus, play with friends. How do I play with a friend? Will both you and your friend share the screen? Is your friend registered on Board Game Arena? Yes. What's your friend's player's name? Alan Oughton. If you let me know your friend's player's name, then let me know what your BG... A. Oughton. A. Oughton. I found you. Okay. We are live. Oh, why did that not work? I'm trying to add a friend. No? Yes? Alan Oughton. This is really infuriating. Come on. Okay, so I'm trying to invite you, Alan. I don't know how I can invite you. Why can't I invite you? I don't understand Board Game Arena. It's infuriating. Damn you, Board Game Arena. So now we're trying to play this thing. How can I? Maybe I need to cancel this. Okay, I cancelled that. Play now. Wait. Oh wait, are we playing? I don't understand. Don't understand what's going on. How do I play? Oh, Alan Oughton, I think you've got some sort of invitation, maybe. Check if it works. Oh, Alan Oughton doesn't want to play right now. Oh. Well, I think what we've learned is that I find Board Game Arena slightly infuriating, and it feels like yeah, maybe we'll just do that. So I do really love Quoridor. Oh, but you're happy to play it 2 players, right? It says Alan, it says that this player hasn't confirmed their participation yet. You need to confirm your participation, and it should take like 7 minutes. Okay. So while we're waiting to see if that can work, if you what are we all looking forward to? Today, I am looking forward to going to the post office, playing some live stream games tonight with people. We're going to play Giftable, and that brings me to my next stream. Yep, that's at 8 p.m. tonight. And tomorrow morning, with the 10 a.m. Ready Breakfast Board Game Bladder, we're going to be interviewing the people from Wellicon, and the interviews are always a good shout. So that's a CD of Wellicon along with Adrienne, and then we've got Casey and Tobena. Alan Oughton says they don't know why this is not working. So I think what we've realized is that Board Game Arena is not as easy as it would be nice. I did not open my table for joining. What? I don't understand. Are there other people waiting for this game? Yep, I want to leave. And yeah, I don't understand what's going on now. And this is really not a good advertisement for not the admin of this table. Yes, I want to leave. Oh, let's just give up with that whole thing. Yeah, for the record, I got a 1 month subscription for free for Board Game Arena. I got it as a lovely gift, and I am very grateful for that. But it does kind of rub into my face that this whole playing online thing is at times infuriating. And obviously playing with an actual physical copy is always preferable. Next stream. Next stream is down there. daily hope / ambition. I'm going to go to the post office. That's my hope and ambition. Do you have any hopes or ambitions? Let me know. If you have enjoyed this, then please. I'm sorry for it just feels like it's been even more rambling and nonsensical than normal, because I feel like I do really love this game. I feel like you're playing it and then you're surprised. You think that you're going to win, and then suddenly you realize that you have to turn back because the other person uses all their walls to make you go back, and you didn't see it coming. Once in a while, you think that you're going to be able to force the other person down a reroute, and then they place a wall anticipating your move, and so that you can't reroute them, and then you learn, and then it's like a whole new system of gaming. It's unlike so much that you've played before, and because it's a whole new thing, because it's not just okay. And I think that's Hex. Whilst I love Hex, and Hex from its own points of view is arguably a marginally better game, but just because I like the fact that you're placing things and then the board is full and then it's over. There's none of this movements. It's arguably Hex is slightly more elegant and it's slightly more pure. Whereas, so in terms of what would be my top 5 perfect information 2-player games, I would honestly say, okay, Go, and then after that, I would say probably Quoridor or Hex. I'm not quite sure. Quoridor is because you have the ability to handicap each other, and it's so different to everything else out there, and so lovely. And Hex because it's got the elegance and simplicity. Then number 4 might be photosynthesis if you count that, and then number 5. I mean, I'm trying to think. Yeah, I don't know what my number 5 game would be, but I do love a lot of abstract strategy games. I love all the things by Gigamic, not just because they pay me money, but because I genuinely do. I should say that I really did. The one that I personally like the least is Quarto, which is one of their more popular ones, because I just feel like it's too. I don't feel enough ownership. I've not got my own sense of pieces. I've not got my own moving towards a destination, and I like to have some sense of responsibility and ownership. But I love abstract strategy games. This is a brilliant example of one. This is a brilliant game. Please try it. It's honestly worth the money. If you like this kind of game at all, then get this game. And I feel like I've only just started scratching the surface of what is possible. If you have enjoyed this, then please follow me. Feel free to follow me if you wish on stuffbybez.com or on twitter.com/stuffbybez or on instagram.com/stuffbybez or on twitch.tv/stuffbybez or on facebook.com/thingsbybez, because Facebook does not let you have F and B next to each other, but you can have F and B in the URL, but stay worried that you might be impersonating Facebook. So it's facebook.com/thingsbybez. And you've also got stuffbybez@gmail.com if you want to have my email. And all that's left to do for now. Thank you for watching. Thank you to everyone who popped in. Sorry, couldn't get the Board Game Arena thing. I'm going to see what happens. Thank you, Sunof Kalal, for popping in. Thank you, Alan Oughton. And for now, bye, 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 bye. This is the end of the show. Bye, 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 bye. Now it's time to go. Bye, 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 bye. Thank you for watching along. Bye, 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 bye. This is the goodbye song. Bye, 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 bye. This is the goodbye song. Bye, bye, bye. Bye bye. Thank you for watching along. Bye bye. Bye bye. This is the end of the show. Bye bye. Bye bye. And now it's time to go. Quoridor. I really like it. Bye bye.